Home buying checklist for military personnel in Southern California. Hi, Frank Del Zompo here, Sandusky Properties, lead of the Del Zompo team, retired U.S. Marine Corps officer, and your guide to buying a house in Southern California using that very powerful VA loan guarantee benefit. Number one, determine your budget. Should that be the first step? Yeah, before you start window shopping, looking at houses, drinking wine, and looking at Zillow late at night, you might want to think about, well, how much can we really afford? What is our budget? So thankfully, the Marine Corps and the Navy, they have this thing called Basic Allowance for Housing. You can check right there online, what is the BA at my new duty station? What am I going to be rating as a Marine Gunnery Sergeant with dependents, or as a Navy Chief without dependents? Whenever I get a call from someone on the phone asking me, hey, I want you to help us buy a house. Okay, let's back up. What have you budgeted towards your housing expense? And sometimes I get a pause, like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that. Or occasionally, we go, oh, here's exactly how much we know we can afford. So you want to sit down and think, what is my income every month? My net, not the gross, the net. And then what are my expenses? My inflow, my outflow. So if the sole income for the household is that Marine or that sailor's income, we got to be very careful and line everything up on our budget. What's the outflow? Do you have car payments? Most people do. You got phone payments, utility payments, maybe you got some credit cards. Hopefully you haven't maxed out your credit cards. Maybe you have student loans. So we want to see, what can you reasonably afford? Okay, once we've done that, we want to put you together with a knowledgeable lender who will run your credit, figure out your debt to income ratio, and come up with a realistic number, given today's interest rates, what you can afford. You may in your mind think, well, I'm getting $4,400 from the Marine Corps for my BA. I can use all that towards my mortgage payment. Well, maybe, but we want to see, what's your debt to income? How much debt are you carrying every month? And do you have other income? Does your spouse work? Do you have income flowing in maybe from investments, that sort of thing? Believe it or not, we do have Marines who invest their funds and they get some income every month from that. That's kind of nice, yeah? Maybe you have rental property elsewhere, maybe back in North Carolina, right? You were smart, you used that Marine Corps BA out there at Camp Lejeune, and you bought a house there, and now you're going to buy another one out here in Southern California. Congratulations. We do have clients that do that, believe it or not. So, determine your budget. How much can you afford? Get connected with a knowledgeable lender. That's step one. Next up, step two. Find a knowledgeable, experienced, smart, preferably military-focused realtor, real estate agent. Those are two separate things, by the way. To be an agent in California, you have to graduate high school, not be a felon, and pass 3 very easy tests. Then you sit for an exam, a couple hours, and you get your license. Then you're a licensed real estate agent. Not very difficult to be a real estate agent in California. It is difficult to make a living at it. Not hard to get the license. Realtor, on the other hand, is a private organization with thousands of individuals who ascribe to a code of conduct, a code of ethics, an ethical mandate to take you on as your fiduciary. So I prefer to use the term realtor. We are realtors here at Sandusky Properties. Most folks who actually make a living in real estate are realtors. They ascribe to a higher set of guiding principles, just like Marines. So you want to find yourself a good, solid realtor. We've got here at Sandusky Properties decades of experience. Since I retired from the Marine Corps 20 years ago, been doing this full-time, non-stop, 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. We have multiple agents within the office, all of whom have military experience, and they are all realtors. One of the things we require here at Sandusky Properties is the military connection. Either they personally have served or they have very close family members, like a spouse or a parent, child who served in the military. So you want someone who knows not just real estate, not just Southern California real estate, but someone who knows the unique challenges of being a military person, having to move every 3 or 4 years, uprooting the kids and having to land them into a new school, trying to acclimate to a new environment, new social pressures, new financial pressures, new commute, new job. There's lots of stressors involved, right? We know what's involved with that. Step 3, do your homework, do your research, check out the neighborhoods, get your home preferences. Here at Sand2C Properties, what we do is we have a detailed first meeting. We can do it face-to-face here in my conference room or via Zoom. But we have a detailed conversation where we explain the process to you, and then we pick your brain to determine what are your must-haves, what are your nice-to-haves, and what are your definitely don't wants. And we figure out what it is, what we can do to help you get those must-haves and those nice-to-haves. So you want to research the area, but we'll assist you with that. So typically what we do is we cast a net for you, like a fishing net, right? We want to figure out the area, general geographic area that'll work for you within a reasonable commute to the base, and with the amenities, the price, the neighborhood, all the things that you must have. And we figure out are your musts realistic with your budget? Then we adjust accordingly. So we've sold, like I said, hundreds of properties here near Camp Pendleton, near 29 Palms, the McCagsey up there, and the naval bases down in San Diego. So we know this area very, very well, and we can guide you, especially if you have, let's say you have children, and the schools are of utmost importance. Okay, we know the good schools, right? Let's say you don't have kids, you could care less about the school district. What you want is some land, and you want to be out in the middle of nowhere and away from the pressures of the city. All right, we can help you with that. So we know these areas, and we can guide you in the right directions. And sometimes we can get creative about things that you may not have considered. Maybe, for example, reach out to an area that's unincorporated yet. It's within the county. We know it's in the path of growth. It might be 5 years or so before it's really up and coming, but you can get a foothold in there. And that's just kind of an idea to think about. So we will help you with all that. Next, we have step 4. This is tour potential homes, right? Actually, boots on the ground looking at homes. So much of what you're going to want to do can be done from the comfort of your home, with your computer or with your phone. I know a lot of people do everything on their phones now. I prefer sitting down and having a computer in front of me because squinting at the phone is just too hard for me, right? But I prefer the computer. But regardless, so you can do an awful lot online. Additionally, if you have already arrived, let's say you're in temp lodging or you have a month-to-month rental you're living in, you can actually drive these houses. You can go to the neighborhoods for yourself. You don't need me or our realtors with you. You can certainly eyeball the neighborhood and get a sense yourself, is this even worth my time? You can go to open houses on your own. You don't need us holding your hands. Of course, we were happy to be with you and accompany you if you need that or want that, but you don't need us. But when it comes time to really narrowing down your preferences, let's say we've cast that wide net, you've located maybe a dozen potential properties. Then you do your own legwork or research online. You said, maybe these 5 or 6 could work for us. Well, then we will set up the appointments. We will take you to the house, tour the house with you, show you or point out areas of concern with that particular property based on our experience. I've actually, I can't tell you how many thousands of properties I've looked at over the years. We can spot things based on our experience that typically people don't notice. I remember one time I walked into a house. First thing I noticed was the owners had some like a mat on the floor right at the entry. I thought, that's kind of odd. I wonder what they're hiding. I lifted it up, and sure enough, the carpet was all ripped up underneath. And I just kind of giggled to myself because I I actually said it out loud. Hey, I wonder what they're hiding. And my clients were thrilled that I had kind of the sense to do that, right? Anyway, that's the sort of thing when we're looking at properties, that's what you want to know, right? You want to eyeball it, see, okay, where's the deferred maintenance? Where's this house going to end up costing me money? Or is it turnkey, move-in ready? And we can assist you with all that. Sometimes the properties look great. They've been a fix and flip. But you don't want to be persuaded by that first impression. You got to do your research, right? So you tour the potential houses. Evaluate the house. Step 5, make an offer and negotiate the terms. What's involved with that now, making the offer? It's a big deal. This is where you really, where the rubber meets the road, and having somebody who knows what the heck they're doing. The current iteration or current version of the RPA, the Residential Purchase Agreement for California, is 16 pages. Very fine print, very dense, no double spaces. There are probably 20 deal points within that 16 pages that are very important to know. It's not just the price, although the price, of course, is very important. But how much is your earnest money deposit going to be? What's an earnest money deposit? Well, that's your money to open escrow. As a buyer, you want to put as little money as possible up front. Most sellers want to have a lot of money up front. So that's a key point. The length of the escrow. Who's paying for what? Who's paying for what inspections? If there are repairs needed, who's paying for those repairs? Simply checking the wrong block can end up costing you hundreds or perhaps thousands of dollars. So you want an experienced realtor, military focused, who knows this contract cold. And we do here, Sandusky Properties. I like to say I'm a recovering attorney. I am licensed by the state of California to practice law. I don't. I'm inactive as a bar member. My wife as well. But we know these contracts cold, and we certainly know contract law, and we can explain that in a way to a lay person that they get it. So we negotiate the deal points, we submit the offer, bingo. All the while operating on your behalf as your fiduciary, right? That's a very important legal concept. It's a very important legal position. And it's just like an attorney owes to a client, like a financial advisor, a CPA owes to a client. It's the highest duty at law. So your agent, your realtor, is your fiduciary. That means we cannot do anything contrary to your best interest, nor would we, of course, but we cannot, ethically, legally. So all the while, we are representing you as the buyer, negotiating the terms to your benefit as best as possible, and then submitting the offer to the agent for the seller on your behalf. Typically in this market right now, we're getting counter offers. There are multiple offers on properties, so you're likely to get a counter offer, and then we'll discuss those terms with you. When you receive a counter offer, you can either accept the terms, you can reject it, or you can make another counter offer. You can go back. And then ultimately, the parties will reach an agreement. We call that a meeting of the minds, and that's the date of the purchase agreement, the date of the contract. So that's step 5. So step 5, we negotiate the terms. Step 6 now is we execute. We execute the contract. What is that? What's involved in all that? Well, you typically have, per the terms of the contract, the default terms are 17 days to do your due diligence. What's involved in due diligence? Well, that's your home inspections. That's getting your appraisal for your loan, getting your loan lined up, right? Getting all your paperwork together. Making sure that the property you think you're getting is actually the property you're getting. During that 17 days, the seller is obligated by law to disclose any material issues to you. What's material mean? Well, important. Something that would be important to the reasonable buyer. So the seller has to do their best to disclose any material issues, repairs they've done to the property, issues with the neighborhood, issues with the property itself. Was there a death in the property? Was there a meth lab in the property? Sometimes these flips, they have a history. mean, the person selling the house must disclose the history to the extent they know. And then we do our own due diligence. Make sure that we're going to be able to get you clear title to the property. What's that mean? Clear title. It means when you buy it, the person selling it to you actually is giving you what they in fact own. They're not selling you something that their brother owns or that, they acquired by some nefarious means. They are giving you clear title, and there's actually a whole industry, title insurance, that helps guarantee that. So we get title insurance for you. So during this execution period, this 17 days, you're doing your due diligence, you're getting a home inspection, a detailed home inspection. If you want extra inspections, roof inspection we can have, electrical, plumbing, very detailed. So you want to make sure the systems are all good to go. Your HVAC, right, your heating, ventilation, air conditioning, your plumbing, your electrical. Want to make sure that the property itself is sound, that the roof is okay, there's no issues with the foundation, things like that. And also, I'll go knock on doors. Next door, hey, what can you tell me about the house? Why not? Maybe get some information, right? Or you might see, oh boy, this neighbor's kind of creepy. I don't know if I want to be living next to this person, right? That's your due diligence period. Step 7 is to follow up on the financing. So you've been going through this process, and simultaneous to your due diligence, your lender's ordered an appraisal. The appraiser's gone out, and the appraiser's job is not to inspect the house and determine whether it's good or not. The appraiser is a neutral third party who comes up with an estimate of value of the house to make sure that the buyer and the seller have not done something, again, nefarious or improper with the valuation. So if the buyer and the seller negotiate a purchase price of $500,000, but the recently sold comparables in the area do not support that price, they support a price of $450,000, the appraiser is going to say, I'm sorry guys, my opinion of value is $450,000. So then the lender says, okay, thank you, Mr. Appraiser or Mrs. Appraiser, that's very nice of you to tell us that. Hey, parties, we are not going to lend more than $450,000 on this property. I'm sorry. That's it. So then it's a renegotiation. So while that's going on, you are also getting all your ducks in a row for the lender. You're providing your bank statements, your tax returns, any explanation of large deposits that may appear in your bank statements. It's a good idea while you're in this process of buying a house not to do anything weird with your credit. Don't go out and buy a brand new washer and dryer. Don't buy a new car. Just you want to be careful with your credit because you could end up messing up the deal, ruining your debt to income. So that's the next step along the way. Step 7, getting your financing all in order, getting it all together. And again, we're assisting you all the way through this. Step 8. We're getting close to the finish line. We're getting close. You're going to satisfy yourself as to the condition of the property once and for all. Remove your contingencies. Get that loan locked in, sign loan docs, and close the deal. So that's a lot in that step 8. During those 17 days, you should have satisfied yourself, I want the house. Then it's time to fish or cut bait. Because that seller has taken the house off the market in reliance on you and your good faith to close the deal. So at day 17, you're going to sign a document that says, I am removing all my contingencies, my inspection contingency, my appraisal contingency, my loan contingency. I am full speed ahead with this house. Once you sign that, that doesn't mean you have to buy the house, but once you sign that, if you later get cold feet and change your mind, yeah, you can cancel the contract, but your earnest money, that initial deposit we talked about, that goes to the seller. So I explain this to my clients up front. My agents, the realtors on this team, we all explain that to the client up front, to the buyer. Most agents don't. And honestly, I don't think they know how this works. But there comes a point, in fairness to the seller, you got to let them know, yep, we're good to go. And that's the best way to do it. Remove the contingencies, puts the seller's mind at ease. And you know, you're at that point, yeah, I'm buying this house. I'm excited about buying this house. This shouldn't be a stressful thing. This is an exciting thing. And signing that document puts your mind at ease, puts the seller's mind at ease. We're full speed ahead. Boom. Now we're a week out from closing. You get a chance to do a final walkthrough. During that walkthrough, you make sure the house is in the same or substantially the same condition as when you negotiated the contract. And if we negotiated repairs, like after we got that inspection report, maybe we found something that was of concern to you, we asked for the repair. The seller doesn't have to repair, but the seller in this case agreed. We just double check. Oh yeah, so the plumbing doesn't leak anymore in the master. Great. Or yeah, all these electrical outlets work now. They didn't work before, they work now. Fantastic. So we verify repairs are done, make sure the house is in the same or substantially the same condition. We knock that out, and then we just finalize the details, and you sign your loan documents. So with a VA loan, ordinarily, you're not going to have to bring money to the table because that provides 100% financing. There may be some closing costs you got to bring to the closing table, maybe a few $1,000s, depends. That's with a VA loan. With a conventional loan or a USDA or a FHA loan, those loans, typically you're going to have to bring some money to the table, out of pocket. So that's going to happen right about the same time that you sign the loan documents. You send your money to the escrow company along with the loan docs. That goes back to the escrow company. And then on the day of closing, your lender sends the money into the escrow, right? This neutral third party that handles the money. Once the money is all in, then the escrow company sends the title rep to record the deed, transferring the property from the seller to you, the buyer, and bingo, once that's recorded, you own the house. Then the seller gets their money, you get the keys, we have a little party, not a party, we have a little blessing at the house. And if you want to have a party, we've always offered, and we've maybe had 3 or 4 clients over the years only take us up on it, but we always offer to buy a keg for the housewarming party. So if you like to drink beer, we will happily buy a keg and I will drink my share. That's the process for military folks buying a house in Southern California.